What is up, comic fans? Welcome to the Legion of Comics. I'm Mark, and today we're here to talk about none other than the brand new Aquaman issue number 1 from Jeremy Adams and John Timms. What a creative team. Jeremy Adams is the can't-miss writer in comics right now, doing titles like Green Lantern. He did that epic run on The Flash, and he did some other titles that we'll be talking about here shortly. But let's not waste any time. There's some cool stuff to talk about and some important questions to answer for people that might be jumping on this title for the first time. Let's get it. So here we are. Don't forget to do all the things in the description. I have fantastic links to Big Time Collectibles, ABX Comics and Games, JustinComicx, Pop Static. Fantastic resources down there if you're looking for any. But let's get into it. We're in the DC All-In era, so there's a lot of jumping on points for a lot of different titles, and it's the Return of the King. Since I've been on this platform, I've raved about how we don't have an Aquaman ongoing title. I'm a huge Aquaman fan. I just Aquaman everywhere. And not only that, I'm giving away this first appearance of Ocean Master to the channel member stuff. Don't forget to check that out. But after years of waiting, we finally have an ongoing Aquaman title. Jeremy Adams is writing it. What an all-star writer. And we're going to look at this book, kind of go through it, give you my thoughts on it, as well as answer some questions that you might have. All right, Aquaman issue number 1. It's finally here. Don't forget, when you go to your shops today, to look for other variant covers. There are a lot. There's this beautiful Mira cover by Tole. I'm not familiar with that artist, but this right here, spot chromium foil, whatever they call it. This absolute beauty is done by someone with the last name Walker. I'm not sure, but I actually gave these away on my new DC Day stream, so tune into that every Tuesday for your chance to win some cool stuff, and there'll also be a lot more covers to choose from. Let's get into it. So we had some preview pages from this title in recent stuff, and we get told right at the beginning that this is not your regular story of Arthur Curry as a boy, hero, lover, even a king. This is the story of the Dark Tide. This is the story of Arthur Curry as a god killer, and then we get this splash page previewing something that will apparently come to pass eventually. But obviously, right from the get-go, you can tell the art is above par. John Timms is fantastic, and this is post-Absolute Power, so right off the bat, we're getting a whole save situation with a plane going down. This really iconic classic hero feel of the rescuers getting a sigh of relief, seeing that Aquaman is on the scene, and we get our first kind of look into what Aquaman is like post-Absolute Power. Not only has he got his powers like he normally does, but he now has the added power of hydrokinesis, which is what Mira has, the ability to control water, which is definitely something that I think Aquaman wasn't necessarily lacking, but it feels natural for him to have that ability, ultimately making the rescue, saving the plane, getting everybody to safety, and then returning home. We get our first shot of Atlantis in here. I would have loved to have that in a big splash page, but all the same, you know, the part of what I really enjoy about Aquaman books is the lore, is the settings, the places. I love Atlantis stories in general, the whole lost civilization stuff. So I'm a big fan of just getting the aesthetics of it, like getting the backgrounds, getting the whole artist detail. Like, give me George Perez Wonder Woman era detail in the background. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. But immediately Jackson, you might know him from Young Justice, Aqualad, or Aquaman. He's been, I don't know, upgraded or given a promotion over the years, but Jackson Hyde, Aqualad, Aquaman, whatever he goes by, is wanting to talk to Arthur about something that he's found. Arthur said that he's going to be in meetings, but if you get an opportunity to interrupt the meetings, go for it. And Jackson mentions that he has found this pearl that he needs Arthur to take some attention to. I found something strange, a pearl. And now we get an editor note right here that tells us to check out Flashpoint number 1, Flash 785, and Batman Brave and the Bold issue number 18. So I think it's actually worth taking a pause for the cause and looking at that. So we're actually going to do that toward the end of this, because this pearl seems to be the catalyst of our story moving forward. So let's go and flip through it. So we have Aquaman bored in the meetings, and it's kind of reminiscent of Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom, the film. Like the whole concept of being in the council meetings where no one will let you do anything, just blah, 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 bureaucracy. But then the pearl gets brought into the conversation, and before they can get into it, there's trouble on the shores. Giant Hydro Kaiju is attacking. Arthur shows up, has a little fight with him, gets thrown through a building, uses his hydrokinesis in this really awesome scene of focus, and just decimates it. But right when he does, he gets a call out. He hears Mira's voice. So you get this really cool moment here where you're swimming back to Atlantis, and you actually feel the speed of these stagnant images. You feel it coming off the pages when he's just blowing through the water faster than ever before. But right as he arrives to Atlantis, not an explosion, not a boom, but a whoosh, and you get a page splash, and that scene we saw earlier is now vanished, but the only thing remaining is the pearl. So naturally, what is there to do? We're going to the Watchtower, which is great because that's really setting this book up tightly inside DC continuity currently, which is super tight. Since we got to the Justice League Unlimited, the Question all along the Watchtower, Justice League Atom Project, Black Lightning, so many titles are really using the Watchtower as the pivot point to really keep everything locked in. The continuity is so tight right now. It's just really adding to how deep these stories are going. But they go in there wanting to talk to Batman, get an idea of what's going on with the Pearl. Zatanna can't detect anything on it, which is odd for her. So they go back into the ocean. The Pearl seems to be drawing them toward a place. And they find this little floaty thing underwater with this, what looks like a ring. But it's covered with foliage. And the Pearl seems to be lighting up and getting bigger as they get closer. And Aquaman releases the Pearl. And it opens what looks like a Stargate. So, Diana and Batman tell him, go in there, go find your family, and pretty much give hell to anybody you find on the other side. And Aquaman goes, and when he does, the explosion of going through it reveals an Omega symbol. So this is a huge deal, too. This is a huge continuity clue, knowing that Darkseid is presumed dead. It's a huge mystery to all of the characters that are on the main Earth. We know as the readers that he went to a whole different time and space and created the absolute world where our absolute titles are taking place, but there's a whole rift left, and you see the stuff happening in New Gods about it. A whole secondary god has been created in his absence because he is a universal necessity, but this does not bode well for the people of Atlantis. This is huge, and it leaves us wondering, what is this Pearl? So, at the suggestion of the actual editors, go to Flashpoint Beyond #1, which Jeremy Adams co-wrote with Jeff Johns and Tim Sheridan, which is fantastic because when you go in here, it is the familiar Batman or Flashpoint world, but this is where Batman has come back to life in a post-Flashpoint world where everything still exists instead of not existing. But without getting into all of that, in this world, Aquaman, Wonder Woman still warring with each other. Aquaman has taken over Parliament, threatening to nuke the world and flood the whole place, and he's threatening to do it with a specific item. Wonder Woman's tied up. Batman comes to rescue her. He wants to go question Aquaman. And when he gets into Aquaman's chambers, we find that his ultimate weapon is, in fact, that pearl. So we know that all he had to do was touch his trident to that pearl, and it would have set off a chain of events that would have flooded the entire world, killing everybody. Wonder Woman ultimately gets there to stop him. But that's what the pearl was capable of. We don't get really any answers as to what it is specifically, but we now see that that's where it made its first appearance and some of its capabilities. So it's blown up Atlantis or transported Atlantis or something. We might find another clue inside the second one it recommends. Flash 785. This was a story Jeremy Adams wrote where Flash is bouncing around all the time in space trying to get back to his people, trying to find out what this problem was in the Speed Force causing all these fluctuations and issues. And he had to bounce around to all these different eras in his time and across space and stuff. And one of them was a Mad Max style scenario where these Mad Max style villains were chasing this Mad Max style Barry Allen who was driving a car. And his ultimate goal was to get the MacGuffin back to the place. If he could just get this item to this place and put it where it goes, it will just correct everything. And that item was, in fact, this pearl. Now, you don't get as much context in this as to what the pearl is or what it can do, but of course this is a good guy, bad guy story, so ultimately the good guy's got to win. So they do get the pearl there. Let's get to the point. So, yeah, he walks in, and here he says, this is it. This is where the fraction landed, where it started. So in this case, it seems like the pearl landed on this world. Now, I don't know, being that this is an alternate time and place that they're traveling to through the multiverse, if this is the same exact pearl, but it is referenced to go check it out. But he goes in here and he crashes it. He smashes it. So it might not be the same one. And in so doing, it kind of just sets off this explosion. You see this is a real big clue. Well, ain't that a sight? This rift going up in the sky. Up. Who knows where it goes? I don't know. That wasn't the big part of the story. It just seemed like something that was taking place that was important to just those characters in that issue on that other world. So we don't know. But if we go to none other than Batman Brave and the Bold, issue number 18, which I do not have a floppy copy of, but I do have my DC Universe app open. We see that there was a white Martian that was using the Pearl to siphon water off Earth. He was on Mars in a citadel using that to actually siphon the water off Earth because he was trying to repopulate Mars with the water from Earth. Ultimately, McGann and Aqualad there stopped him from doing so, and in the process they received the Pearl and took it back to Atlantis. So that's how Jackson got it. And the White Martian himself, he said that he got it from reading and studying up on Atlantis, and that he found that there are tomes in Atlantis filled with knowledge undreamt of. One of them spoke of a pearl that could pull water from across the cosmos, a pearl that could give life. So we saw that same funnel in here, the same energy funnel looking thing in that Flash 785, and we know of its destructive power from the events of this book as well as the events of Flashpoint Beyond #1. So we've seen it. Is it apocalyptic tech? We don't know. We're gonna have to stick around to find out. But I tell you what, this was a phenomenal read. Action-packed. Artwork was fantastic. John Timms is perfect for the job. Jeremy Adams on it was great. Oh, a little Challengers preview in the back. I highly recommend that. That's another good one. But man, please guys, go out and give this book a shot. I think this is going to be awesome. It's definitely going to be worth your time. Only a $3.99 price tag for the A cover. Tons of variants to choose from. Some major bangers. And while I got you here, I do want to remind everybody that we do have the channel membership. And this month, to celebrate this book coming out, I'm going to be giving away in the Legion loot at the end of the month Aquaman #5, signed by writer Chuck Brown. The Aquaman 4-issue mini-series from 1986 featuring the first appearance of his blue costume, as well as Aquaman issue number 29, the first appearance of Ocean Master, all going to a new home, to a lucky winner. I appreciate everybody watching the video. It's New Comic Book Day. Get out to your shop, support the locals, pick up this book. Pick up this book, let me know what you think. Get a little taste of it. Get your beak wet. And until next time, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.